the garbage, first light, looking for bits of metal and plastic and paper to recycle. And a lot of the children there were sniffing glue to suppress the pains of hunger. We began talking to the people on that dump, and nearly everyone, we said to them, why are you here? How did this happen to you? They would say, there was no food at home. We had to leave home because of hunger. Many of them from the north of Kenya, where there's a bad famine at the moment. So we were there for some time, and as the morning went on, I was very aware lots and lots of people were coming, and it's quite a violent place, and I was just keeping an eye on what was going on. And then one of the young American men I was with who were filming came over to me and said, Magnus, there's a little boy here that I think you should meet. He seems very different than all the others. And so I said, okay, and this little boy came over to me, and he was about 8 years old, and he just started saying to me, I want to go to school. I want to go to school. Please take me to school. I've never been to school. I want to go to school. And he wouldn't let up. He just kept on saying this to me. And after some time, I started talking to the Kenyan people who run our work there. And I said to them, have you got any ideas how we can help this little boy? And he said, well, we could take him to school and he would receive Mary's meals, but the problem is we also need to find him somewhere to stay. And I thought, there's probably going to be no solution to this. And then a little while later, they thought, we just had an idea. We just thought that we've heard of someone on the other side of this city who has a children's home. Let's go and see him. He's a pastor and he sounds like a really good man. So we put the little boy Musti in the back of our car. We drove across town and we found this children's home, and we went in and we introduced ourselves to this pastor, and we explained who we were. We explained we were from Mary's Meals, and he said, oh, that's fantastic. I've always wanted to meet somebody from Mary's Meals because they've just started feeding in the school across the road. And it means all 55 of the children I care for here are going to get a meal every day. So he was full of gratitude. So I thought that was a good moment to tell him about the little boy in the car outside. And as soon as we did, and we explained about this little boy needing a home, he said, yeah, I'll take him in, bring him in. So we took this little boy that we found in the rubbish into the home, and we sorted out getting him a school uniform. And that was still only 10:30 in the morning. This boy's life had just suddenly been transformed. And Musti explained to us how he'd come from Kibera, a huge slum down in Nairobi. They say it's the biggest slum in the world. And his mother had died as well 2 years previously. His father was an alcoholic, threw him on the street. And ever since then, he had just been climbing into the back of trucks and going wherever they would go. And he'd landed in that place, that rubbish dump, near to it, about 3 weeks before we met him. And he said every day he was being beaten up by the older boys in that rubbish dump, and he was terrified, and that's why he was so desperate to get out. So anyway, we said to Musti, we're going to spend the day here, Musti, going around other schools and seeing Mary's Meals. Why don't you just hang out with us for the day? And he did. He came along with us, and there came a point later in the day where we had to go and get something to eat, so we went into this restaurant on the edge of town. And I'll never forget Musti sitting, I'll never forget the looks of the waiters in this place as we took this little boy in, and we had to take him to the bathroom and scrub him for a very long time. And then he sat at the table with us. And I always remember one of the people I was with, we said to him, Musti, what date's your birthday? And of course, he didn't. He said, I don't have a birthday. I don't know what my birthday is. And we said to him, okay, today's your birthday, Musti. And quite recently, I've just had an email with photographs back of Musti in his uniform. He's going to school faithfully every day, and the teachers are saying he's a fantastic student and he's really serious about his study. And that's just one of, example of how lives are really, really being transformed through this work. And so much of that goes on out of our sight, and sometimes, especially that story I told you, it felt like such a huge privilege to be there and to be a little part of that story and the way that boy's life was transformed. And one thing I would say for me that's really important about Mary's Meals is all of this happens, all these things are happening every day. The work grows and unfolds in all these beautiful ways. Not really because anyone's doing anything spectacular. It's lots and lots of people doing small things, lots of little acts of love. That's how I think about Mary's Meals when I think about it around the world. And there are so many ways that people can take part in this mission, and it doesn't require people to have any great skills or qualification. I don't have any qualifications, nothing relevant to this work at all. And I really believe that. I don't think there's anyone who wouldn't be able to contribute to this work, this mission in some way. Just one little example of that. Quite recently in our office in New York, we received a letter. This was only a few weeks ago when I was there. And the letter was from somebody in prison in Kansas City. And the letter read, I'm in prison because of a crime that I've committed. But we here in this prison, we haven't lost our humanity. And we've read about Mary's Meals, and we want to help. And in the envelope was a cheque for $1,000 that these prisoners had collected in this prison and sent to us. And that's just another example of how every day really in this work of Mary's Meals things happen that amaze me and that I thank God for. And I feel very much that way coming here. I very much believe that these days I'm spending here as the birth of Mary's Meals here in Canada. And again, it's been a privilege to meet those of you who've invited me here and who want to see Mary's Meals grow in this nation as well. And I'm sure it will. When Mary's Meals first began, I would sometimes stand up and give talks like this, and I would share with people that our vision for Mary's Meals is that every child in the world should be able to receive one good meal every day. And I know when this work began and we would share that vision, sometimes people would look at us like we were crazy, like we were mad to have such a grand ambition. But the more I see this work unfold, the more I believe that is absolutely possible. And the more I believe that it is much more mad that today 18,000 children will die of hunger-related causes around the world, or much more insane that nearly 400 million children are in chronic poverty, or over 100 million children are missing school today because of poverty. Those things, I think, are much more mad in this world of plenty. And especially when you think that we can feed a child for so little money. For $16 on average, we can feed a child for an entire school year. And there's no need for any children to starve in this world of plenty. I really believe that. And that really drives us on in terms of, it's wonderful to think that today around the world, well, it wasn't today because today's Saturday, but every weekday, 650,000 children receive Mary's Meals now around the world. And that is an amazing thing. It's something to thank God for. It's a miracle, I think. But it's also worth remembering that there are many, many more children than that waiting. Every country we're in, there are children waiting for Mary's Meals. We have waiting lists of schools who are waiting for us to help. Maybe just one other thing I would say is in terms of our overheads, our costs. Another thing we feel really strongly about is that when people give us donations, they give it to us so that we can feed children, not so that we can have fancy offices or pay big salaries and use our money for those things. So we have a commitment that at least 93% of what we are given will be spent on the projects, and we've always managed to do that. In fact, we're normally doing better than that every year. And that's possible largely because of this army of volunteers around the world who are helping. So, I don't know how long I've talked for, but it's probably enough, I think. I just want to thank all of you for coming and for listening to me, and I want to thank God for this work, for making it possible. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.